both ways sometimes for Drogo. Sometimes it's obvious that he's loosey-goosey in a good way, and other times, well, he blows up his own engine disruptor. So, yeah. Yeah. We'll see what happens. Bottom left, we do have Drogo.
Yeah, it's just tough to know where he is at. In the top right, a player who's been grinding. In the red, it is ForJumy. Playing in a lot of stuff as of late. And we'll see what his PvP brings to the table here as we get this one underway. This one back from Group A of the European stage. PtitDrogo obviously lost out to Christian in that close match we watched yesterday. But ForJumy lost out to Spirit in a series where the first game he actually looked pretty good as well, and definitely had Spirit a little bit on the ropes throughout the series in general. So, you know, ForJumy came in competitive, and that's why I'm very hopeful for him going into this series in particular, I think.
Okay, that makes sense. I don't know who I really think is gonna win. I guess I do lean towards Drogo. Just the name and the history, but it would not surprise me whatsoever if ForJumy even took this 2-0.
Yeah.
You can just go around that way, right?
No, I'm with you, right? Especially in PvP, and I think that's one of the main things as well. You know, for all the experience Drogo has and everything, PvP can only prepare, can only allow you to do so many things. So, yeah, I'm excited. I think it's going to be a fun one. I do think it's going to be competitive. I think we should be in for a good match here today. So, a great way to wrap up Europe, if you ask me. And of course, we've got Americas later. I know at the start of the day, ZG was saying we were very excited about a lot of those Americas matches. So, yeah, seems like a good last few hours of the day.
Yeah, I think so. We'll love to talk about them when we get there, and the potential that is the Americas. So full of potential. But this PvP also has some potential. It was at least one half of the members here. Drogo helped to make it a very exciting matchup yesterday. And while that doesn't mean he can, steer the course again that direction, I think it just does mean that he has that volatility. He has that up and down that can kind of make it very, very interesting, if perhaps clumsy and not the absolute peak StarCraft 2. But still very, very enjoyable. And ForJumy, ditto. Right now, we have the typical probe scouts. It is going to be double adepts for ForJumy and soccer sentry for Drogo. So Drogo playing more of that macro style, taking his opponent's aggression potential fairly seriously, though. He's going to go into another 2 stalkers afterwards. So not going to try and play this around with, 2 sentries, potentially lose them too. And then I also have to worry about the potential of a 1-base Stargate, something that Drogo cannot confirm is or is not around. All he saw was that, for instance, ForJumy's 3rd pylon did not go in the low ground, which, can be a little sus. In this case, ForJumy is still expanding.
As Adepts finished their shade next to the Stalkers, which is a little bit sus as well. That doesn't really make too much sense. Because I think he could have cancelled and he would have just been nice and far away. So unfortunately he loses both these Adepts, so they go down. Good stuff from Drogo. Obviously this is an expansion each. Drogo gets the scout on that as well, so he should be pretty happy with this. ForJumy following up with 2 sentries now, but they're obviously a bit later. His 2 Adepts have fallen without doing anything, and Drogo's extra 2 sentries finishing as well, so he has more of those hallucinations to keep on scouting with. And of course, further down the line, the Guardian Shield and the Force Fields we've seen repeatedly throughout the PvPs the last couple of days have been so good at just helping to dictate some of these fights and deciding what people can do. Is ForJumy going to opt for the Robo? And on the other hand, Drogo takes the Twilight Council.
Yeah, big difference there. Drogo playing the more standard PvP. ForJumy, we're waiting and seeing what he's going to do with the Robo. Play defensive, perhaps, is maybe the simplest answer, but it's, well, we've talked about it a lot. It's kind of like the worst macro option nowadays in PvP. The other thing I did want to just touch on, just because it's interesting, is the way that ForJumy walled off allowed him to have a low ground shield battery without putting his 3rd pylon down there. But it does put the pylon in like a little bit of a contested area at ForJumy's wall. But I don't know if Drogo was thinking he maybe could abuse that, or he saw the shield battery wasn't quite done. He was doing some poking and prodding. It just was, I think he injured the sentry, for instance. That was really all he could do.
Yeah, nothing too meaningful as we just make our way into Blink. And yeah, Jimmy just being very safe. Observer first, now into the Immortal, just getting the defensive, kind of longer game plan units up and running. And I love what Drogo's doing. He's realizing, hey, look, if you're going to be building a Robo, you're not going to be on the map. I will take advantage of that. I'll take an instant 3rd base. My Blink will come up. I can take map control. Yeah, I absolutely love it from Drogo. Feel like he's doing all the right things so far.
I don't get to cast ForJumy very much. I see his results, and then I typically cast, the guy after him, basically. But I don't know if this is how he usually does, and so he's very comfortable with it. But to be very clear, this is considered a worse style of play. There's a reason that everyone moved away from the Robo Opener into Immortal Zealot Archon and into the Blink Stalker. And it's because people got so good with Blink Stalkers, they could really control the ebb and flow of the PvP. This is a little bit awkward for Drogo, to be fair. It's not exactly controlling the scenario, but it's not terrible either. And Drogo still ultimately gets a faster third base. There is going to be a moment where ForJumy has a decent number of Immortals and charge and a faster upgrade, and absolutely Drogo will have to respect that army. But the Blink Stalker usage is so good nowadays. You pick off units, you threaten the Warp Prism. Of course, you defend with your shield battery, right? Classic. And it's just, the faster third base feels better.
Yeah, faster third base does feel a lot better. I mean, we've talked about it endlessly, it feels like at this point, because it has been a major topic in the PvPs, and we've cast a fair few over the last 2 days especially, and yeah, I mean, generally we've seen players make the Robo work. It's not like it's just not going to work, but it definitely feels like you're giving up control, and you're the one that then maybe has to do more with that Robo to stay in the game and stay competitive. Love this from the Stalkers. This is exactly why it's frustrating to play against. It's one of those things which gets easier as you take and expand as well, because if you're defending the third, the blink up into your main is not as much of an option. But of course, ForJumy's not being able to get out to the third base just yet, and this is really starting to hurt. I mean, we're down 9 workers. As he gets the Prism charge and, Temple Archives, I'm almost like, does ForJumy just need to go across the map and make something happen? Because, well, if he doesn't do anything, it just feels like this is such a delay on his own third. He's going to kill off the pylon in the corner again. ForJumy was a split second late to getting the cancel on that. It's not going well so far for ForJumy. He feels stuck in my eyes.
Yeah, I don't know what his plan is. It's just nothing. It's nothing good. I really don't, because he's going to wait for +2. That's going to take forever. Drogo is already on his way to mimicking the composition of ForJumy. So the one thing ForJumy has is a composition that works well when it's direct fighting, right? When Drogo's back at home and not microing all over the place. But if Drogo has the same type of army, charge, Archon, but more Stalkers than Immortals, but a shield battery, right? Then Drogo's fine. But it looks like Drogo might have lost track of the army, and it's getting a little bit awkward. Probes will go down on ForJumy's side of the map, but Drogo, does he have enough of an army to defend his third base? You can see he was building up the army that I was talking about, but he's not quite there yet in terms of numbers. Shield Battery Overcharge going to have to do a lot of work. Fortunately, that's exactly what it's good at. It's also out of range of any of ForJumy's units, so he couldn't actually get the kill on that. And this is an excellent game of PvP from Drogo. Perfect defense with the offense still underway. Total control of the game.
Yeah, total control. Absolutely not a chance for ForJumy. PtitDrogo didn't even let him breathe in this one, it felt like. Just ForJumy losing so many workers as well. Them Stalkers really did keep it up. And now we're chasing. These Zealots are just not being stopped. One Archon going to get back to the battery. It's not in time, though. We popped the super battery, but it won't have made a difference there. And that's just going to be, well, Drogo, I mean, still up 50 supply, basically, as we sit here and we're ready up to close out this game. The Prism has one Immortal on the other side from ForJumy, and whatever his plan was, I feel like this is a game where at some point the plan just got kind of taken away or got off track, and because it didn't look like this had any hope at any point.
Right. I'm honestly confused. I really am. I can't see at what point there's supposed to be a different road taken for ForJumy. A Robo Opener, what else does it do? Sometimes it goes into like Adept Harassment. I think we have seen that, weirdly enough. But it didn't even do that, and then there's a timer on it, because the opponent's getting Blink a lot of the time, so the War Prism can only last until Blink is done. So that's kind of a okay-ish thing, but that was just a very old-school style that displayed all the weaknesses of that style. If someone from 4 years ago came here today and was like, what's PvP like? Oh, okay, ForJumy's playing the good stuff, right?
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, 4 or 5 years ago it was good, but God, man, Stalkers are so much better now.
Stalkers players have just gotten so good with using the Stalkers, right? Utilizing them so well, knowing when and when not to do stuff with them. In this case, PtitDrogo was perfect with them, right? He used them aggressively, he kept track of the game, he kept Jumy contained, and then, was back in there to kill a few more probes to make it even more necessary for ForJumy to do damage across the map. And PtitDrogo just sits here now, up 1 game, looking absolutely convincing. I came into this thinking this is more of a coin flip, and, after that first game, it feels like a Night Phoenix versus Strange, where Strange was like, no, I'm the favorite, get it right. That's kind of what Drogo just did in this first game to me.
Mm-hmm. See if he can do it again. Bottom left of Ancient Cistern up 1. It is Drogo.
In the top right, our red Protoss player. This is going to be ForJumy.
I can only assume that he hoped that Drogo would play worse,
Yeah.
which isn't much to go on, honestly. Because I would love to really think of the reasoning, right? I would love to give ForJumy the credit that he deserves, but I just really don't know what the plan was. So I'm not even going to say that I could see a bunch of Protoss players playing worse than that. I don't. The Protoss who made it into the regional here, I don't think play that much worse than Drogo. Now their openers could be different. You know, maybe the Stargate opener is weirdly affected by that, and then the Immortal +1 push is stronger because you wasted resources on 2 oracles and a Stargate. Okay, but if it was the same type of setup, they both decided to do, you know, a solid 2-base setup. One goes Robo, one goes Twilight Council. I don't see any other Protoss on this list who would do necessarily worse against that than Drogo did. The way they could have played worse is possibly put way too much stock in more Stalkers. If Drogo went up to 15 Stalkers, maybe that's a little more awkward too, but I don't know. I think it is a very old style for a reason.
Yeah. It's, I think at the end of the day, it's just if your opponent plays correctly against it, it's just very difficult to do much with it, and it looked hopeless there. We'll see what we can do if we try and adapt game 2. I would be very surprised to see something similar. This probe doing a decent job of scouting around for the moment. We get a couple extra Stalkers on the way. Stalker Adept on the side of Drogo. You talked about Stalker Adept earlier, the skillless opening, didn't you, ZG?
I did, yeah, and I said skillless pretty much only does it, maybe one other person. And I couldn't think of the other guy. I think we did see it yesterday, honestly. I just don't remember. But, and not by skillless, because you did see skillless yesterday. But anyways, now that we can talk about it, because it is happening, I think the advantage is that, right, you have a decent attacking unit, but you also have your scouting unit.
Yep.
And it's, you know, more guaranteed to scout than 2 Stalkers will. It's also a little bit cheaper, which I think slightly affects the Stargate. So it is a bit funny that Drogo knows what he's up. He knows what he wants to do. When he wants to go into a Stargate, doesn't really fear ForJumy's missing second pylon.
No, and rightfully so. That pylon on the top side is not accompanied by a probe, so it doesn't see them like we're going to get anything out of that. ForJumy just drops the expansion, a couple Stalkers poking, has a couple of Adepts following up, so he will also have this kind of, you know, a bit different way to get to it, but Adept-Stalker combo. He will have the 2 Adepts that, also than Scout, and they obviously want to get in and actually deal some damage, compared to the single Adept to Drogo, which really is just if you can Scout, then go for a little bit of a Scout, right?
Nope. ForJumy's gonna go into that Robo again. Well, I guess I hypothesized maybe a Stargate opener would cause some differences. I guess I get my my wish. I'm gonna see it now in theory, you know, actually in practice.
Yeah, the theory comes into practice. The couple of Adepts make their way around to the front. The Nexus is still coming through here, about halfway done. And these Adepts will try and get up. No probe in the wall off, by the way, but we've got the units, I think, to defend these Adepts if they did commit from that far away, at least. So, yeah, Drogo was probably quite happy if they had shaded, and that's the reason ForJumy goes for the cancel. So, a smart play there. Of course, Drogo just playing with the Oracle. First one already up the right-hand side. No battery at home for ForJumy. Just going to be Stalker-based defense. Probe's already pulled away from the natural. I guess that was just long-distance mining, actually. And now we head into the main. We took a lot of shots on the natural, which means we can't do much with Oracle number 1.
Not super effective. Hopefully it buddies up with Oracle number 2, though, and is a little more effective for Drogo's sake. And since he is dedicating to the second Oracle, we do actually need those Oracles to do damage. Adept's not going to find any success for ForJumy, but they're always posturing around. Looks like the Oracle decides to kill them. You can see them disappearing on the minimap, which I think is a fair use. You know, the jig is kind of up as far as the Oracle play now. Now it's more about, like, popping up at a random time, isn't it? So, all right, Drogo has an ineffective opener this time around, which is important, an important difference. And now ForJumy probably isn't as contained, first of all, and just, you know, second of all, I guess looks cleaner than Drogo's. So I think this is how we could maybe start to like ForJumy's position. But if Drogo is once again very on point with his Stalkers, it could just be another example of why Stalkers are still the go-to. They don't require the absolutely perfect scenario to win against this style.
Yeah. I like the little way you phrase that as a Twilight Council sets up for Jumy, our +1 attack, our mortal coming in, and yeah, we sit back, we get towards the Stalkers. We're already going to come forward with Drogo's Stalkers and just go poking. Obviously, this is earlier than you'd kind of expect because Blink is a long way off, but right now, he has the numbers. These couple sentries in the front are not having a good time. They go down for ForJumy. He was very eager to defend this position. Well, that's all well and good when the Immortal gets here, but before the Immortal, well, it just ain't so pretty, and we get the poke to pop the barrier.
Yeah, really nicely done. That suddenly turned this battle into unwinnable almost for ForJumy. It's still contested, but if Drogo has any more units coming in, then it's going to be dangerous. Oracle is going to accidentally sacrifice itself, but the Immortal did go down, and now Drogo just has the superior Stalker number. Still a ways away from Blink, so I'm not sure he'll actually be able to kill this third base, force the cancel. Maybe he will. More Stalkers racing across the map. Proxy Gateway coming in. ForJumy taking the fight prior to actually having the numbers or a shield battery. And ForJumy might just be kind of digging the hole for Drogo. Or maybe barely has enough. You get him, Probe. You get him.
Probe trying to show him who's boss. A couple extra Stalkers will open in, like you said, two coming across the map as well. The Oracle going back in the natural. Every time there's all these Stalkers going from ForJumy onto the third, there's nothing defending the natural. Now he's just forced to warp it onto the natural too. We'll go in the main stasis ward and keep ForJumy busy. While once again we're poking at the front. This time we've got Blink. We pop the barrier on the Immortal. We might just be able to stay on the left side of the Nexus and go. The stasis ward was big in the main as well.
Wow. That was a really good stasis trap. Almost, well, 3/4 of the mining now gone. Even a little bit more than that. Drogo got the proxy gateway up, so he's going to have those instant reinforcements with Blink done. So while ForJumy finally got another Immortal and a shield battery, and that's usually as solid of a setup as it comes. Another fantastic stasis trap. My goodness. Drogo might just be able to out-micro him. Upgrades and shield battery be damned. There you have it. It's not going to be able to two-shot that Immortal, so it is a little more awkward than Drogo was hoping for, but it still favors him.
The only reason I don't like this move in particular was because I feel like he could have just targeted the Nexus and then he forced the battery on the Nexus and then maybe you can swap onto the Immortal, like jump on the Immortal then. It just felt like he had enough to go for the Nexus anyway, but I don't think it really matters. I think round 2 is going to show us the ability to kind of kill this off. We do get the Immortal in 2 volleys. Unfortunately, it had to be 2, but yeah, now the other Immortal has no real protection, no barrier, no battery. The Probes can't even get to join this fight because of the positioning, so they're going to take a little while to truly surround, and Drogo is going to absolutely dominate this PvP.